How is everybody doing tonight? Welcome back to another edition of Boys in the Zone. We've got two awesome guests here tonight. Rucker, if you were here last week, you know about Rucker. He is a very informed Cowboys fan. A pleasure having him on last week. We brought him back on the show this week, but now we've got Bennett of the Dallas Ballers Club. I almost said Buyers Club, which it's so funny that you have that name because so many people say my show as Boys in the Zone or Boys in
Mm.
the Hood, and so it's funny that we can share that little bit of stuff. But anyways, Bennett, shout out your show. Let people know where they can find you on socials and whatnot, and then we'll jump into the Cowboys talk.
Yeah. Obviously super glad to be here. I'm only one third of the Dallas Ballers Club podcast. It's myself, Bennett, and then my other two buddies, David and Clayton, who couldn't be here tonight. But you can find us on YouTube at Dallas Ballers Club. We're on Twitter at Dallas BC Pod, and then you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Dallas BC Podcast. And then, yeah, super excited to just kind of jump into this today. And yeah, it's gonna be a great show. Super stoked to be here with y'all, man.
Awesome. Try not to move around your mic a lot. We're getting a lot of feedback.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no worries. Rucker, shout yourself out in case the people weren't here last week, just so where they can find you and whatnot.
You can find me on X or Twitter at Old Man Rucker, Instagram at I Lift for Whiskey with the number 4, and then if you're into pro wrestling, Boot to the Face podcast. We're killing it over there talking about the world of pro wrestling. So that is all the ways you can find me. If you want to follow Boot to the Face on Twitter, it's at Boot to the Face with the number 2. Instagram, TikTok, all the same over there with me and my boy EJ Reed.
There we go. Another EJ, not
Yep.
EJ Savage. Now, honestly, we have a very fun show planned tonight. We are going to look through the entirety of the schedule and talk a little bit about Mike Zimmer, talk a little bit about the rookies, about some breakout players. But first, we are going to jump into this schedule. Let me bring it up here on the screen. Game 1 at the Cleveland Browns. Welcome to the show, Tyler Guyton. You get to go against Myles Garrett in your first game at left tackle. I'm interested to hear your guys' opinions. I got a little bit of Rutgers last week on this, but we'll just throw it up to Bennett here. What's your thoughts on this game overall, and is there a matchup to watch? I mean, obviously the Guyton and Myles Garrett one is very intriguing, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, like you said, obviously the most notable thing is going to be the matchup of Miles Garrett and Tyler Guyton. I mean, what a test, for the rookie first round pick. I mean, I would be terrified, but then again, I'm also not built like Tyler Guyton, obviously.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's going to be, that's definitely going to be one matchup to watch. The other thing, just matchup overall, and how I like that matchup for the Cowboys is going to be our secondary against Deshaun Watson. Just because, I mean, we know that, Deshaun Watson, his days in Houston were great at times, and since he's been in Cleveland, not so much. So, and we know, especially with our secondary, getting Trayvon Diggs back, obviously still have Deron Bland. Safety room isn't going to have Jaron Curse this year, so that's a big positive. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what our secondary can do and hopefully wreak some havoc.
Yeah. No, great points there. Let me shout out my guy Vince P, always in the chat saying, "What's up, guys?" My guy Doug hasn't been here a whole lot recently. I gotta tease him a little bit for that, but I'm glad to see Doug here in the chat saying, "What's up?" My guy Boots to the Ground Eric, parts of the Cowboys Can Fan podcast as well, saying what up, and he says, "Hey, I like the name Boot to the Face Pod." So hey, you might have a new fan right there from my guy
I
Boots in
like
the
it.
Ground. Yeah, you got a really good point with Deshaun Watson coming over from Houston to Cleveland. Hasn't really been the same quarterback that he was in Houston. But we understand that the talent is still in there.
Right.
It's just is this a Tiger Woods-esque fall off kind of a thing with what's happened in his situation with well, I just won't get into it, but in the background, I mean, off the field kind of a thing, does that translate to his mental side and how he performs on the field? I think that question was definitely a yes last year, but does it hold true this year? Especially, against the Dallas Cowboys defense that should be improved basically solely upon the fact that we actually have healthy linebackers and actual linebackers that aren't safeties.
Right.
So I wonder how ready for the season Trayvon Diggs is. Obviously, towards ACL, I think it was week 2. Um,
Yeah.
but that's a long time to rehab. But we've seen in the past these ACL injuries take a little bit more to hurdle over the mental aspect of that entire injury. So very intriguing to see that. And then it's the reunion of Amari Cooper versus the Cowboys. That's a very fun. I told Rucker last week, I was like, man, it's gonna be hurtful when Coop picks up a first down, but whenever you hear those Coop chants, it's gonna be reminiscent and it's gonna be some fun.
Yeah.
Rucker, jump into the conversation. Just let us have a little taste of what this Cleveland matchup means week 1.
Like we talked about last week, man, run defense and run offense versus Cleveland is going to be paramount in how they can just attack this team. If they come out and let Cleveland just run the ball down their throats, then you open up play action, you open up bringing the safeties down. And like, again, we talked about last week, Amari Cooper is one of the best route running wide receivers that of this generation. So if
Yep.
you're pressing everybody and you're bringing everybody into the box and you leave him one on one, Trayvon coming off of a torn ACL or Deron Bland, who was kind of susceptible to double moves and stuff like that last year, that's just asking for trouble. So them stopping the run and them being able to run the ball, I think, are going to be the two keys to this game.
Absolutely. We won't jump too much into the Cleveland talk because we talked about it a lot last week. But my guy Boots on the Ground does make a great point. Guyton gets to go up against Micah a lot in practice. Now, I will say Micah is more of a, like, don't get me wrong, he still has strength, but he's more of a finesse rusher than a true can win in any manner type of a way like Miles Garrett does. So it's a little bit different, but he is facing one of the best in the league. So still
Well,
a good point about that. Go ahead.
one thing to note about this though is guys like Micah and CD aren't at OTAs, so they're already missing.
Mm,
Not necessarily Mike and CD, but Guyton is already missing chances to at least be around Micah Parsons and kind of get a feel for the speed and the pass rush and things like that he brings. Yeah, they're going to be at training camp, but I mean, it wouldn't hurt if they were there now to kind of get them a little
yeah.
early start. So
Yeah, definitely a good point with that as well. Jumping in here to this week 2 matchup, this was a game I was kind of eyeing to possibly be at, but it looks like a lot more Cowboys fans that I'm interested in meeting up with is going to go to this week 3 matchup. But first, we got to talk about this Saints matchup. Derek Carr with the Saints now had an up and down season last year. Um, I wouldn't consider him top 15 anymore. Interested to hear kind of what your guys' takes are on this Saints team. They're a good defense. They're a well coached team. But realistically, I think the Cowboys at home, this homeowner opener at 12, a noon game. I just feel like the Cowboys are going to get off to a really quick start on this game. And truthfully, man, I don't know that there is a matchup that I'm most looking forward to other than possibly CD Lamb versus like a Marshawn Lattimore. But interested to hear your take first, Rucker.
this shouldn't be a difficult game for Dallas. Like if they come out and they're ready to take care of business, this should be one of those ones where they're pulling it. Dak didn't play how many fourth quarters last year. This should be his
Yeah.
first fourth quarter he's taken off
Yeah.
for next season. So I, in theory, am not worried about this game, but I don't know. Next season's looking a little iffy. So who knows? But in theory, this should be a easy winnable game for Dallas.
Yeah, we also forgot. I wanted to do this while we were going through the games. A running tab on the W's versus L's, that we're going through. So week 1, what are you guys leaning upon? Win or a loss week 1?
I got to win versus Cleveland.
Win. Okay. Bennett.
So, and this is just like it'll probably become my thoughts on the season and just the team overall will probably reveal itself more as we go through this. But I think I'm gonna say week one is gonna be a close loss.
Close loss. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go with a win right here. I think I know how good Cleveland's defense is, but I guess more optimistic about the Cowboys being fully healthy and our offense and defense being better than their offense and defense. I know they have a very stout defense. I probably would say that their defense overall is better than the Cowboys. But I just feel like their offense lacks so much. Where's Nick Chubb at with his recovery? Like, there's so many questions with them. They lost some of their better offensive linemen. They don't have as much depth there and stuff. And they lost their offensive line coach, which was one of the best in the game. So, how does that play a factor? I think that the Cowboys can narrowly beat them. I think it is a close game, as you mentioned, Bennett, but I think that the Cowboys, just the fact that we do have a very good kicker in Brandon Aubrey, we can maybe nail one through the uprights and go home squeaking out a victory week one. Off to the Saints game, though. I talked a little bit about it, but go ahead with your synopsis on this game, week two.
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much like both of y'all said, this game, the Saints don't scare me at all. I mean, out of probably every team, just looking at our schedule right now, outside of like maybe the Giants, I think this is probably the least intimidating team that we have on the schedule.
Mm.
I mean, Derek Carr is, as you mentioned, he's not really a threat. Right now, they do have some guys. One guy that kind of makes me a little bit nervous is Rashid Shaheed, just because he's a
Speed.
burner, speed guy.
Chris
Speed
Olave is also there. So, I mean,
exactly, yeah. But I mean, they do have some weapons. They still have Alvin Kamara too, obviously. But the Saints just don't really scare me that much. I guess if there was one matchup to look out for, I would just say our defensive line against their offensive line. Obviously that they have some turnover there. Week one probably not going to be as great of an opportunity for us to kind of pin the ears back and just kind of get after him. But I think in this matchup, we could potentially see some guys, like a Marshawn Nealand or, guys that are further down the depth chart, potentially getting like, some sacks and some big plays.
pop off a little bit. Yeah,
Mhm.
they're a team that has struggled to find good offensive linemen. They tried to hit it a little bit in this year's draft, and um, they might be without Ryan Ramczyk, which is their best offensive lineman. So
Right.
who knows with his recovery process as well if they're going to have him for this game. I'm going to chuck this up as a W. I mean, Doug agrees. Expected a 2-0 start. Um, yeah, Watson hasn't been the same since he lost his favorite masseuse. Um, Derek Carr beat us with the Raiders a few turkey days ago. He is a threat. Yeah, that was such a weird game though because we didn't have CD, we didn't have Amari Cooper. The number one wide receiver was Michael Gallup, and he didn't show up until the very end of the game. So, um, yeah, I don't even like to think about that Raiders loss because I was stuck 50 minutes away from my house and I was just like in misery.
Yeah.
Anyways, though, bringing up this game three against the Ravens, this is where I think that we're going to lose our first game. I just
Mhm.
think that the Ravens, yes, they have turnover with their defensive coordinator. Yes, they've missed, they lost some pieces as well with their defensive fronts and whatnot, but they brought back Justin Matabike. They still have Kyle Hamilton. They still have just those corners there. They actually hit the draft pretty well with just picking stud players, just players that fall to them, and they do it every single year. But I feel like the Ravens are primed to be one of those, 1-2 seed in the AFC this year again. And you also have to worry about Lamar Jackson healthy at the beginning of the season. He's going to want to run and extend plays. it's not that I don't trust my linebackers because we do have fast players. Damone Clark, we've got Overshown back. How do those sideline to sideline linebackers help out? But overall, man, um, Lamar's coming off of an MVP season. I'll put that in quotes because I feel like Dak should have won it, but
Yep.
um, he still is a difference maker realistically on the football field, and they just continue to add weapons. Another year of Zay Flowers, obviously no OBJ, but they're starting to turn over a new fold of offense, moving in the right direction. So that's my two cents on that game. I feel like it's probably a loss, but the Cowboys are very good at home, so who knows? But I'm gonna go with the 2-1 start here. Rucker, why don't you jump in and with your thoughts on this on this game?
It's okay to not trust the linebackers. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns there, right? Like Damone Clark, we saw him play well and we saw him struggle last year. Overshown's coming off the ACL. Kendricks is his first year coming in. So I wouldn't say I trust the linebackers. Like they're gonna have to prove it to me.
Yeah,
And a
yeah,
person that has proven it to me is Lamar Jackson. That I just see him 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, third
yeah,
and 9, getting first downs, just constantly keeping this game moving. I think it's going to be a tough hill for Dallas to climb. As we talked about last week, like everybody's going to give Dallas their best shot this year. And if they're not up to the task, like they should be every week, then it'll
yeah.
be easy for Baltimore to not necessarily run away with the game, but I think they win by at least 10. Baltimore does. They may
Mm,
score late again, but Dallas
yeah.
will keep it close for the most part. But I just see
You know,
30 to
I'm
20 Baltimore.
I'm interested in how big of an impact their losing both of their tackles this offseason plays in on that game because if we get one of those, legacy games by Micah Parsons, two sacks, a forced fumble, strip sack kind of a deal, um, and Lamar constantly having to get flushed out of the pocket and try to extend, how does
That's
that help your
scary though.
secondary? It is, yes, definitely. I mean, obviously, you go into the game. I think that Mike Zimmer has this understanding, like, yeah, we're gonna have to spy Lamar each and every single down just because of his ability to be a ball carrier. But overall, man, I wonder if you can get one of those games from Michael Parsons, and then how does that factor into the back end with two ball hawk corners, Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland? Can they possibly get a turnover on Lamar Jackson, who isn't really known for his accuracy? So it goes both sides of the coin. We'll see. Bennett, what was your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so this game is one that it kind of intrigues me in a similar way to week one. Just we know that the Ravens and John Harbaugh's philosophy is that they're going to pound the rock, they're going to run the ball, and this is going to be a really big test for us. I mean, the Ravens have shown that it doesn't really matter who they have in the backfield, whether it's J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards or Justice Hill or Keaton Mitchell or whoever it is. Over the last couple of years, that they're going to run the ball no matter what. And then when they get into those third and long situations, Lamar's going to do what Lamar does, which is get outside the pocket, extend plays, make a little pump fake, make a guy miss, run for the first down, flip it to someone, just
Yeah,
doing what he does. I think it's it'll be a really good early season measuring stick game for this defense, for the Mike Zimmer defense and how just overall I think that we're adjusting to it.
yeah,
I do think that we'll lose this game, although I don't know if it's a game that we're losing by 10. I could see this being, a really close game and it comes down to like a Justin Tucker, game winning field goal.
yeah. I mean, these could
Yeah,
be the two best kickers in the league now. So
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you don't really have the plus side of a Brandon Aubrey because on the other side of the coin, they have probably a guy that's better than Brandon Aubrey currently, even though he's kind of getting up there in age. But yeah, man, it's hard to say, it's hard to be a homer every single game. Like you got to be realistic about this stuff. And the Ravens, we all have a loss for that game. So 2-1. Then we get the Thursday night game on Amazon. I'll be honest, man, I love the Amazon games personally. Just the ability to have that other broadcast view that's more analytics side, that is
Mhm.
sick. So shout out to Amazon for that. But Thursday night against the Giants, Dak has won 11 straight, I believe, against the New York Giants. Does it end here, boys? Go ahead and both of you guys that yeah, no.
I mean, do we have to spend a lot of time on this one?
Well, go ahead and start us off.
It's just, they should smack the Giants around by at least 3 touchdowns.
Okay,
Yeah.
Bennett.
Yeah. I mean, Giants they're moving in the right direction. Finally actually invested some draft capital into a target for Daniel Jones, but he's still Daniel Jones, so I'm not worried at all.
No.
Dak owns the Giants. Not worried at all.
Can you pull the schedule back up real quick? I
Yeah.
have a. Is this the first year that after Thanksgiving they don't play 2 Thursday games in a row? Because
Mhm.
usually they play Thanksgiving and then they play the following Thursday. So they've moved this Thursday game up to week 4. So Dallas will
Mm.
have a little challenge of a schedule this time. Because like I said, since they started doing the Thursday games for everybody, Dallas usually does Thanksgiving the following Thursday, and then they
Well,
have like that little mini bye week in there.
Yeah, that is a good point. I will say the for the NFL schedule makers, they hit us with a mini bye in between the Giants and Bengals, but then they hit us with 2 bye weeks with the Commanders and the Giants right there. No, I'm just kidding. Uh no, but I mean realistically, it is a very, very good swing that we get to play the Commanders. And yes, it's only a 4-day turnaround, but then the Giants again. I mean,
Yeah.
that's helping us out a lot. And on top of that, they're both home games. So,
Mhm.
and we're actually going to have one, two, that 5 straight home games. No way, that's legit.
um,
Unless I'm missing something.
which stretch are you looking at here?
Hold on, let me. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
that
okay, the Washington one
the
was covered
Washington.
up. So
Okay.
that one
Yeah,
is at
yeah.
okay. So Washington Commanders at. Oh, I mean, we'll get to this. We'll just go back to what we were talking about earlier. But let me turn this off. Yeah, the Giants. I mean, when are they going to break through? Is the question.
They broke it through twice
I'm not
in the
here's the thing.
past
I'm not
30
willing to
years.
bet like put my credibility on the line and say, yeah, week 4 the Cowboys are going to lose to the Giants. If it happens, it happens. Obviously, they're going to eventually beat Dak Prescott, in my opinion. But unless he's, done after this season, the Cowboys move on from him. Maybe not. But yeah, 11 straight. The Cowboys are so good at home. And I mean, at their other house, which is, what is that arena? MetLife. Um, yeah, I just that's Dallas East, um, for Dak and company. I mean, realistically, it's they hadn't gotten good enough. Like, sure, they have their second year players, hopefully getting better. And yes, they added, the LSU wide receiver. Um, but like you said, Bennett, it's still Daniel Jones. You still have to account for the Dallas defense and two very sticky. I mean, Trayvon Diggs was sticky at the beginning of the season. We'll see if he can be that moving forward. But two very good cover corners. Then you have to deal with Micah Parsons as well, and D Law, Marshawn Nealon, Sam Williams. Like, we still have some depth there as well from the pass rushing department. Oh, and we got better at the line, at the linebackers, um, part of our defense as well. So yeah, I chuck this up as a W. So 3-1 to start the season. You're feeling pretty good about yourself. Now you're going to go play the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who do you see? Russell Wilson? Do you see Justin Fields?
Mm.
It's all dependent upon how they play or how Russ plays early on in the season. It's going to be interesting. They have a good defense. You're going to have to face, another one of those top rushers and TJ Watt. And, what's the other rusher there who's pretty
Alex
good?
Highsmith.
Yeah, Highsmith. There you go. And Highsmith is no slouch as well. So regardless of where TJ lines up, you've also got a very good rusher on the opposite end. They can create some havoc too. So both of your bookend tackles have to be on their P's and Q's. It's one of those games, man. I think that the Cowboys can take it, but it's at a hostile environment. Those fans in Pittsburgh are legit. They love their team. They show up for their team. So, um, this is a kind of back and forth game for me. I'm interested to hear what your guys' opinions are. Bennett, go ahead and start.
Yeah, so the last time that we went to Pittsburgh, I'm sure y'all remember this game, Dak and Zeke's rookie year, 2016.
Yep.
Zeke, insane game. Dez had a great game too. Like, what was it, like 2 days after his father passed away?
Mhm.
A super emotional game. It was actually one that I was at with my father um, up in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field, and that was a great game.
Yeah.
Probably the best sporting event I've ever seen in my entire life. But
That was when we could actually run screenplays effectively.
oh yeah, yeah. No,
Do
I
we
was.
even do that anymore? Do we still run screenplays?
I
We
not
shouldn't.
since Scott Linehan. Yeah.
Yeah, but my point with all that being that game was an absolute classic. I mean, you had
Yeah.
the Steelers with the killer bees, and then you had the all the magic of Dak and Zeke's rookie year. Dez was on the tail end of his prime, and now we have the 2024 version, which I don't think will be that close. The Steelers are a team that I think they're surprisingly good. I mean, last they made the playoffs, right? They were like the final wild card team, I'm pretty sure.
I didn't think they did.
Okay.
They had
Maybe,
They
I
they were
think this
close.
was the
I
first
think.
season that
that's
Mike
right.
Tomlin didn't have a winning season, I believe.
Okay. Okay.
I can fact check real quick. Go ahead and
Okay,
make your
yeah.
point though.
But yeah, my point with that being, the Steelers, they're a solid team. I know that they invested a lot into revamping their offensive line, which has seemingly been an issue forever. Their defense is still solid. As you mentioned, T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith. I believe they still have Cam Hayward too, unless he retired. And then, offensively, we don't know who it's going to be at quarterback, but whether it's late stage Russell Wilson or it's Justin Fields, trying to figure it out. The Steelers just don't. They scare me, but they don't scare me enough to be talked into us potentially losing this game. So I have us taking care of business.
Okay, Bennett, you actually were correct. They were 10-7. I didn't think that they were that good,
Okay.
but okay, yeah,
Okay.
they played the Bills round one. So, yeah, man, Mike Tomlin, a hell of a coach, honestly,
Yeah.
for being able to get that roster to where they are. And yes, they have a good defense, but I mean, Kenny Pickett, those receivers were just not very good. Um, but realistically, it's gonna be a tough game. It always is with that division, and you just unfortunately you get to play the most physical division in football probably this year, going up against these teams. But um, I kind of like that a lot of these games are early on in the season, so we'll see. But Rucker, what's your thoughts on this game? W loss? How do you feel like it goes? Where are
I
you leaning?
I think Dallas wins this one, and it is how easy they win it is dependent on who the quarterback is. If it's Russell Wilson, I don't think it'll be a struggle. If it's Fields, I think Fields will give Dallas a little bit more of a problem, the same way Lamar Jackson will a couple weeks before that. Just his versatility. And I'm kind of partial to him because we went to the same high school. So,
There you go.
but yeah, I Pittsburgh's got a good team. As Bennett said, like it wouldn't surprise me if Pittsburgh won, but I wouldn't pick Pittsburgh to win. So
Yeah,
I,
no.
I I'd go with Dallas.
Yeah, for me, I'm definitely gonna roll Dallas. I mean, it makes me question it being in Pittsburgh, but at the same time, man, I just feel like we're a better team. I
It
mean, it's so hard to pick against like this offense when we saw that version of Dak in Mike McCarthy's West Coast scheme during like after what was it like week 6.
yeah.
It was just so, so good, beautiful to watch. The concepts were all there. If we had any semblance of a run game, it's scary how good that offense really could have been. But still, even knowing that, Dak was just a pure assassin. And I really think if Dak plays without a new contract, he knows this is his dress rehearsal kind of for other NFL teams like this season. So he's going to be very motivated to go out there and play the best that he can. Um, I just, man, it's hard to pick against our offense when it looked so good last year, and the defense has linebackers now. I don't know, man. I'm gonna roll with 3-1 right here and give them the or 4-1 actually, because like we said that the Giants was a win as well. So
And also, going to Pittsburgh week 5 is not going to Pittsburgh week 13. You know, like
yeah,
the weather won't be that big of a factor. It'll be
yeah.
more just like an out. It'll be a road game, but it's
And that's another point though with that division and specifically is they're tough nosed, and you play a lot of them early on in the season where they don't have that weather aspect to it, which is a huge plus with the Cowboys being an indoor team. Let's jump here to week 6 against the Lions. I personally am going to come on and just say I think that this one's going to be a loss. I think that they're going to be motivated to come back into Dallas to get their dub. They made
eligible.
it further on in the playoffs, man. They probably should have been in the Super Bowl. 17 point lead that they kind of squandered to the 49ers. They're just a team that's on the up and ups. They got their quarterback signed and Jared Goff. They got a really good offensive coordinator in Ben Johnson, and realistically, I would love him as our next head coach if Mike McCarthy and everybody gets canned. Um, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think. I just think that their defense is so much improved and their offense is amongst one of the best in the league.
Where's this game at? Is this in Detroit or is it at
It's
Dallas?
at Dallas.
Okay. It was a toss up. If it would have been in Detroit, I'd pick Detroit, but because it's in Dallas, I'm going to pick Dallas. I just I want to see how Detroit handles the success that they had. They're not a team that was a couple plays away from being in the Super Bowl like a lot. You know what I mean? Like this was a first time thing for them. So I'm excited to see how they handle not being able to sneak up on people the way they did last season. Like they'll be the hunted this year instead of the hunter. So I don't know how they're going to handle that until they prove to me that they can handle being one of the top dogs, being one of the favorites to win a lot of games. They're still the Lions to me.
All right, all right. So you're off to a 5-1 start, Rucker. That's okay, man.
Oh, that doesn't
Uh,
sound good. I
yeah,
mean,
I mean,
it sounds good, but it doesn't sound good. It sounds like I'm a Homer Rucker over here.
yeah. Bennett, go ahead.
So I'll just go ahead and preface this by saying I also have us losing this game. The eligibility stuff from last year, Lions
Mhm.
fans are still crying on social media about that. And so this is going to be a game that they probably have marked down as like their in-season Super Bowl outside of whenever they play the Packers this year.
Yeah.
Pretty much similarly to how we had the 49ers down as like our in-season Super Bowl last year. But the Lions are a really good team. Their defense is, at least on paper, should be better this year than it was last year. And I mean, their defense has, just steadily improved. Their offense, I mean, they're in the stage now where they're starting to pay guys like Goff and Sewell and
Amon-Ra St.
Amon
Brown. Yep.
Ra. Yeah. So, and I just think that, especially with Ben Johnson, with him potentially, like you said, being a super sought after head coaching candidate again in this next cycle, potentially even for us, we'll have to see.
Yep.
But he's going to be wanting to put his best foot forward, and we had enough issues trying to stop them last year. So, I think that this is going to be a game that we lose. In terms of how close it is, I'd say probably at least 7. Could even be a game that we lose by 2 possessions, but maybe we'll get him back in the playoffs. We'll see.
Yeah. Real quick, I gotta shout out my my gal, Ariana, friend of the show. She's been on here a couple times, but it was actually her birthday yesterday. So happy birthday to you! Pleasure having you pop in here and say some kind words and talk some Cowboys football. Um,
I agree. Dak should have won MVP with her.
yeah,
I also
yeah.
agree.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, bye week. I'm gonna chuck that up as a W for the Cowboys. Feel like I'm pretty safe by saying that one. And then our Achilles heel.
Oh,
Um, San Francisco 49ers. I don't understand how we have to face them at their house again. It seems like every single time we play them, it's at their house. But regardless, the the 49ers, they're a good team. I mean, they have consistently had our number, beating us twice in the playoffs, whooping us last year, whooping us the year before. I think the last time that we beat them, it was CD's rookie season where he actually had a kick return off of an onside kick, which is pretty funny to think about now. But yeah, it's just this team is beating us every single time.
Mhm.
So my guy Boots on the ground says, "Yeah, I'm gonna go to that Niners game." So he's gonna
Nice.
represent. We're gonna at least have one Cowboys fan in that
Save your
arena.
money.
Levi
yeah.
Stadium, I believe it
Save your
is.
money. Don't do it. It's gonna be
Um,
ugly.
yeah, this one I want to give the Cowboys the surprise dub. I really do, but I have to see it first, man. This team is like the boogeyman to our team. I just don't feel like they go into the game with the same vibes and same. Like, it's almost like the bully that continues to pick on you, and you go home and you tell your mom and dad, and they're like, "You just gotta punch him," and then you get there and you're like, "I can't," you know what I mean? So until they actually do it, I'm gonna go with the 49ers. I just feel like they're too good. I mean, probably Dre Greenlaw is gonna be back by then. Um, yeah, I don't know. You hope that Brock Purdy is absolutely trash and it was just a one hit wonder kind of a season. But yeah, I'm gonna go with a loss. The Niners, two straight losses for the Cowboys. They dropped to 4-3 at this point at week 8. Bennett, what's your thoughts on this game, man?
Yeah. So I mean, pretty much my thoughts on the Cowboys and Niners rivalry is that there's going to be absolutely no reason to pick the Cowboys to beat them until they prove us otherwise. I mean, I'm sick and tired of getting my hopes up for a Cowboys and Niners game only to be absolutely crushed and you know th- you know be looking at mock drafts like halfway through the third quarter.
Yeah, yeah.
So you know I again, like you said, I would also love to be proven wrong. I don't foresee that happening. I have us losing this game. Um, don't think it'll be close either. I mean, I could legitimately see this game being a, a real turning point of our season, especially with, I mean, starting with the Lions, and then obviously we have the bye week. But I mean, the next this little stretch of our season with the Lions, Niners, and then the next 3 games that we'll talk about. This is a really kind of tip of the iceberg moment for our season, and for me, I have us dropping this game, and unfortunately, I have a record at 3-4 right now.
You have 3-4?
I have us losing to. Uh,
Pittsburgh?
no, I have us losing to the Browns.
Oh,
Browns,
wow. Okay,
Ravens,
so three and
Lions,
four. Wow. Okay,
Niners. Yep.
Rucker. Um, your opinions
Loss.
on this game, man?
It'll be a loss. They're just the boogeyman, you know. Especially last season's game, you watched Dallas, and it was just so uncharacteristic of stuff that they were doing during that game, to the point where they weren't even doing the regular fundamentals correctly.
Hmm.
Um, I think the Niners just have their number, and honestly, I don't I don't want the win to come in the regular season. If they're going to beat the 49ers, beat them in the playoffs. That's what I want. That's how it was back in the 90s when I was a kid watching them. Like the Niners were the boogeyman back then. Beat them in the playoffs. I don't care about the regular season. Um,
My
it's
daughter came in here to say goodnight. Sorry.
No
it's
worries.
just I don't think Dallas will be mentally up for this game for whatever reason. And I think the 49ers they got the big brother syndrome with Dallas. Like they just slap them around, and until Dallas punches them in the face, which I don't think will happen until the playoffs. Again, they got to prove it. So I got the Niners winning.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Eric,
Sorry.
don't spend your money, Eric. Don't spend your money.
Save it.
Save it.
Save it.
Save it. Yeah,
Boots is
save it
coming
for the
in,
playoff game.
yeasty of little faith. What, baby? Love you. See ya. Um,
She just said pick the 49ers. I heard her.
yeah, there you go. Week 9 against the Atlanta Falcons. New acquired quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Some people might say the
Or
white Dak Prescott.
or
Um,
Penix Jr. might be playing.
oh, or yeah, or Michael Penix Jr. could be playing. I think that'd be uh, uh, crazy for the Falcons to sign Cousins only to have a rookie replace him week 9. But I digress. I mean, he is coming off the injury as well, so we will see. But it's gonna be a fun game, man. The Falcons, for all their problems these past few years, um, with what's his name, Arthur. Um, Offensively, they look to be a better team, truthfully. So, and I mean, they got weapons. They got Kyle Pitts. They got Drake London. They've got Bijan Robinson. They got Tyler Algier. Their defense still has question marks, absolutely. But they got a good coverage corner in AJ Terrell. Um, I think that the Falcons could be a sneaky team, but I am going to go with the Cowboys with the dub. I think that they get it right. They're not going to go 3 straight losses. I just don't believe that. So they climb back out of that, two game hole they slid, and they get a dub, and that pushes them to, for me, I believe that would be 5-3. Um, Rucker, what's your opinions on this game? Where do you see it
I'll
going?
I'll be at this game. Uh,
There you go.
I'm gonna spend my money on a way better game than the 49ers. Sorry, Eric.
Big.
But the last game I
Oh
was
god.
at was the comeback game with Dak and Cole Beasley on I believe it was like 3rd and 7 or something like that. And he hit Cole going over. They went on a field goal at the end. It was a really fun game to be at.
It was like that
Um,
weird onside kick, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
yep.
that game was
Oh
awesome.
no,
That's a
no, I'm sorry.
legendary
No,
game.
that game was in Dallas.
Oh,
The
was it?
Yeah.
onside kick where the Falcons just stood around and
Yeah,
watched.
they didn't jump on it.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was in Dallas. The one in Atlanta, it was kind of back and forth. It was a low scoring game. I can't remember this. I think it was like 2017 maybe. But Dak and Beasley like went down the field towards the end. Dallas got a field goal. We won the game. I was there. I had really good seats because of my ex-wife's friend's boss or whatever. Long story. But it was fun, and this one will be fun because Dallas should beat Atlanta. And Arthur Blank's kind of like the dollar store Jerry Jones, right? Like he came in really hot. He got his team to the Super Bowl. They didn't win, and now he's starting to get, at least for me, because I live here in Atlanta, he's starting to get a lot of the criticism that Jerry was getting 10, 15 years into his run after the Super Bowl run. So
What was their former head coach?
Arthur Smith.
Smith,
yeah,
yes,
yep,
Arthur
Arthur Smith.
Smith.
Yep.
Yeah,
So I think the pressure is going to be in Atlanta because, like you named earlier, like they got a lot of weapons on offense. They still haven't figured out how to use Kyle Pitts. He's been in the league 3 years now. I got him on a dynasty fantasy league, and he's just sitting on my bench now. Like
yeah,
I don't even play the guy anymore. They really didn't use Robinson that well last year. Like he made a couple splash plays, and then you look up and he'd be on the bench for most of the game. So
yeah. They
Atlanta's
tried.
gonna,
Sorry, they tried to push Tyler Algier more as a runner than they should have. They should have made Tyler Algier the pass catching back because he's pretty good in that role, and they should have just put Bijan as just a straight up
yeah.
runner. But go ahead.
I got Dallas winning this one. This is kind of like the game with the Giants earlier. Like this shouldn't be close
Yeah.
if
So
Dallas
you're
is
at.
serious about
I
going
think you're at 6-2 now.
6-2. That sounds about right.
Bennett, rebound game for the Cowboys to get back to 500.
Yes. Yeah. This is gonna be a rebound game. I think this actually could be a game that turns into probably one of the more exciting games on our schedule. I could see this being like a high 30s shootout.
Hmm.
It's just Kirk and Dak just trading blows down the stretch. Um, the other thing is that this is a noon game, so it's going to be a different Kirk Cousins than primetime Kirk.
Yeah.
So he will actually probably show up to this game. And with all those weapons that he has, with two guys that I've wanted on the Cowboys forever, and Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts, but um, he's got a lot of weapons. Their defense is a major question mark. I mean, I think everyone and their mother had them pretty much pigeonholed into taking a defensive player at 8 before
Hmm.
they shocked the world and went with Penix. So um, I do know that their defense needs work, and I think that this is a win. I think it's high scoring and it's a shootout, but I think we get it done.
Yeah.
Rebound game, and we're 4-4 now for me.
Boom. I like the differences in our answers here tonight. We got the Eagles at home, Week 10 on CBS, 3:25. This is the first time we do not play Sunday night against the Eagles in a very, very long time. But Week 10, it's at the crib against the Eagles. Might, I mean, who knows how good the Eagles are going to be? They got a new defensive coordinator and a very good one at that. A guy that's got given Dak Prescott some problems in the past. And then they've got old Kellen Moore in there, the offensive coordinator. Um, so it's going to be very interesting to see how different their defense and offenses are this year. Does Kellen kind of? I mean, we realistically barely ever saw Dak Prescott run in the Kellen Moore system. So how often does he really use that read option? Obviously, they got Saquon Barkley there. It should, if he's a smart offensive coordinator, be utilized a lot with Bijan and Jalen Hurts. But you still got guys on the outside that have been paid and want to get the ball, and Dallas Goddard, AJ Brown. Um, Smitty. So, this is a good team. They've got a good offensive line. The defense is revamping. They picked Cooper DeJean and my top corner in Quinyon Mitchell. So we'll see. But I'm going to give the Cowboys a dub this first matchup around. It's just a familiar foe. We know that the Eagles want to come and play, some dirty ball down in the trenches, but we're going to be prepared for it. It's going to be at our house, and I feel like the Cowboys can get it done. I'm going to be moving us up to 6-3 with that dub. And Bennett, go ahead and start.
So my philosophy for the Eagles is that we're going to split pretty much every year.
Yep.
And usually I have the split being home and home. So I'll have us winning this game. Um, I mean, this is going to be the first look that we have of Kellen Moore pretty much having I guess like almost a run first quarterback for the first time in his career. Cause I mean, he had
Mm,
all those years with Dak. Last year he was with Justin Herbert. So, you know, Jalen Hurts is definitely a more of a different profile quarterback than what he's used to. But, obviously the Eagles with those mouths to feed on offense, and AJ and Smitty and Saquon and Goddard and, so on and so forth. And, all the Georgia players on their defense that they
yeah.
just love to draft.
Yeah.
Um, you know, they're definitely going to keep it close, but just with us being at home and hopefully with some momentum created up off of that Falcons game, I'll give us the win here. So I have us at 5-4.
Rucker?
Uh, I know we've split with the Eagles the last couple years, but I just don't feel like the Eagles are better than Dallas. Um, that game in Philadelphia last year, they had so many chances to win it. Like just inside the 10-yard line for like 10 plays or something like that,
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
by less than a touchdown. And I just felt like Dallas outplayed them. What, 7 of the 8 quarters that they played last year? I just think Dallas is a better football team.
Yeah.
They got Kellen Moore now. I think he'll still be adjusting to trying to use Jalen Hurts. I think this is a big year for Jalen Hurts. He had the benefit of everybody falling in love with him the year previous to last, and then last year he started getting criticism. So it'll be interesting to see him kind of react to the criticism that he got
Hmm.
last season. So I got Dallas winning this one. Much like Bennett, though, I do have them splitting the series. So um, Dallas will take the home game, and we'll see what happens in Philly.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting seeing Jalen Hurts with Kellen Moore, just because we know that Kellen loves those little curls and comebacks, and um, if I'm the D coordinator for the Cowboys, I'm like, yeah, sit on this stuff, Bland and Diggs, and click and close on those routes, and you could possibly have a pick six. So um, gonna be very fun to watch that matchup. I'm on a side note, I'm really excited to see what Shane Steichen can do with Richardson for the Colts as well, and just
Mhm.
because he's almost like a Jalen Hurts in respects to him not being the greatest passer out of college, but just being a big physical guy that can take hits, and you can utilize him in the um, RPO game. So excited to see that a little bit. But jumping to Week 11 against the Texans. This is gonna be a fun game on ESPN, 7:15 Sunday nighter or Monday nighter actually. Sorry, against the Texans. Obviously, they traded for Stephon Diggs, so Diggs versus Diggs matchup here. Um, the Texans, they had a sneaky good season last year. CJ Stroud, basically, copy and pasted Dak Prescott's rookie season, but for some reason, everybody wants to say that he was the best rookie quarterback in I don't know how long. But regardless, CJ Stroud definitely impressed. And my guy Tank Dell went off. I'm excited to see him come back and get into that fold. They got Nico Collins. Their defense, just D'Amico Ryans had those guys playing so well. I think that they had the defensive rookie of the year as well
Yep.
in Anderson. So it's a team that's on the up and ups. We'll see if they can continue to get better and build on that. But I'm gonna give the Cowboys a loss right here, just because I feel like the Texans kind of have that little brother mentality in Texas, and I feel like they're going to be like, "Yo, we can go into Dallas." I believe it's in Dallas. Yeah, so it's in
Yeah.
Dallas. I think that they're going to sneak out a dub, but it's going to be very close. I mean, it's going to be a very fun Monday night game that we'll wake up Tuesday and be like, "How did we lose that game?" But it's fun to watch.
Much like Bennett saying earlier that Detroit, this will be their Super Bowl. I think this is Houston's Super Bowl, and
Mm,
um, I think Dallas getting the win the previous week versus Philly is going to help them a lot because they're losing this game to Houston.
mm. Riding on the high from beating the division opponent just to fall
Mhm.
versus your little brother. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Bennett.
Yeah. Rucker, that's a great point. Just speaking personally from I have a bunch of buddies from school that are diehard Texans fans, and let me tell you firsthand, this is their Super Bowl. Um, I mean, I've spent so many years just, ragging on them, as have my other buddies on the Dallas Ballers Club. We've spent so many years just, giving it to them verbally about how they'll always be little brother, and this state is big, but it's not big enough for two good football teams. But unfortunately, um, they have a really good team. They're building something special over there. D'Amico's got a great group. Their defense is really solid. Their offense is, just I mean, pretty much entirely predicated on whether or not CJ Stroud has a sophomore slump, but I don't really foresee that happening. I think he's the real deal. I've been a big Stroud guy since he took over for Justin Fields at Ohio State. So, um, you know, I think that this is a loss. I don't know how close it is, but this is a loss, and it's one that I'm probably going to have to, go with my Houston buddies that I'm sure will drive up for the game, and I'm sure they'll be giving it to me, you know, for a while for that whole week after. So
Yeah. Got to shout my guy Stephen Mack in the building. Says, "Yo, your boy will be in AT&T Week 3." Yeah, I'm eyeing that game as well. I will probably be at the big tailgate with Mike Tag and Kelly K9 and all of those great guys. So possibly might see you there as well. Um, what is this? Week 12 on Fox, noon game at Washington. Let me take this comment off really quick. At Washington, they got the new quarterback. they said, Sam Howell, you're not good enough. They go and get Jaden Daniels, and he had a great season at LSU this past season, but realistically, I think he's going to be a project of a quarterback at the next level. I know that they got oh, what's his name? Old Arizona head coach, Cliff Kingsbury.
Mhm.
So we'll see what that offense looks like. They have good weapons. Their defenses, yeah. They're realistically they have a lot of players that we know, and Dan Quinn is the head coach, so we should have a lot of familiarity with this team. Obviously, being a division foe, but having a bunch of our ex players as well. So it's going to be kind of fun to watch this game, but I think the Cowboys easily win this game. I'm going to say that if it hasn't already happened in the season thus far, this is the first 40 burger for the Cowboys. Go ahead, Rucker.
I disagree. I think Dan Quinn's really good his first 2.5 to 3 years with a team, and then the luster kind of wears off. I think he'll have Washington ready. I think all the new players, I think all the old Cowboys players, I think they'll all be ready, and I think Washington will steal this game. It'll be close, but I got
Hmm,
Washington winning this one.
okay.
Yeah, this is a game that I'm not taking super lightly, just because with us going to Washington, being a Northern Virginia native, growing up right by the DC area, there's a different energy around that football team right now. A lot of that is because of Dan Quinn, and obviously with Jaden Daniels and a lot of the other young guys that they've brought in, but um, they're a franchise that they've been tormented by the horrible ownership of Dan Snyder for pretty much my entire life, and now they have an owner that actually cares and cares about the fans, cares about the product on the field. Um, but with all that being said, that's enough praise for him. We are going to win this game. I think it will be close, but um, this is a game that I wouldn't be surprised if we lost, just because of the Dan Quinn and ex Cowboys factor.
Mhm. Yeah, I just don't think that their defense is good enough. And also you're relying on a rookie quarterback against two very good corners that can take the ball away. Oh, also you got Micah Parsons. Oh, also you got a legitimate middle linebacker that can get the defense in the correct way. And you've got Mike Zimmer that is a secondary guru, can disguise some schemes against a younger guy. That's why I lean the Cowboys against Washington here. But then we've got the Giants again, Thanksgiving matchup. Um, Gonna be a fun one. 3:30 kickoff. 4 days rest. How does that play into this? For me, I've got a W. It's almost like the adverse, the flip side of San Francisco and us. Prove it, Giants. Can you prove it that you can beat the Cowboys? That's how I feel about this.
Same.
Go ahead, Bennett. Yeah, same. Do we have to take very long on this one?
Agreed.
Run it up to the next one. Okay, so a W right there. The Bengals Monday night. This is coming off a lot of rest, which I'm interested to see if the Bengals are coming off of a lot of rest or not. Um, but for the Cowboys, this looks very, very good. Monday nighter, 7:15 kickoff. Um, that's going to be a fun game. Obviously, this game is very dependent upon Joe Burrow's health. Um, Everybody wants to throw him in the top three category for quarterbacks, but he has been, injured quite a bit in his short, career. So if he can stay healthy, this is a legit game that the Cowboys are going to have to wake up for. Their defense is no joke. They have guys, every single year they just kind of pick off from other squads and fill holes, and they just work. So and you know what their offense can do. So it's very dependent upon what happens with Joe Burrow. In my opinion, I'm going to say just because it's at home, I believe it's at home.
Mhm.
Yes, at
Yeah.
home, the Cowboys sneak out the victory. Late, field goal by Brandon Aubrey. We'll see, but man, that's very hinged upon. Joe Burrow's health, in my opinion. Rucker.
As far as the Bengals schedule, they play November 17th, and then they don't have a game again until the Steelers on December 1st, and they get 8 days in between the Cowboys and the Steelers game. So they'll kind of have a little bit of rest going into it, but not as much as Dallas will.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but I'm picking Dallas for this game.
Okay. Any reason in particular, or just feel good about
I
it?
I just think they're better.
Okay. Bennett.
Yeah, this game is kind of like the Falcons game for me, where it's a coin flip. It really does depend on the health of Joe Burrow. I mean, we do know, or the last time the Bengals came to Dallas was a game that I was at, where I think it was week 2 of 2 seasons ago when Dak was
Yeah.
out.
Dak was
It
out.
was
And
Cooper
Cooper
Rush's.
Rush.
Yeah, Cooper Rush's first start of the season. We ended up winning the game.
Trayvon Diggs was big in that game. We got
Yeah,
called out a little bit for his physicality. Comes up, makes the
hmm
big third down stop.
yeah, which was awesome. That was legitimately one of the best plays I think of his professional career.
Yep.
Outside of the picks and the pick sixes, but this is a game. It's a coin flip for me. Um, again, it's all predicated on the health of Joe Burrow, but I think we'll be past the point where he usually sucks like the first few
Yeah.
weeks
Yep.
of each season, so we'll be well past that. I think it's close. I really do, but I think that AFC North just continues its kind of dominance over us this year outside of the Steelers, and I think we drop this one.
Mm. So what is your record right now for the Cowboys, Bennett?
Um,
Let me
you
pull it
know,
up for you.
yeah,
So
that's a
you had
great
loss,
question.
win, loss, win, win, loss, loss. Did you have the Falcons winning?
Yes.
So you had us losing to the Falcons?
No, sorry, I had us beating the Falcons.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are you at right now?
So I'm trying to count this: one, two, 3, 4, 5. So I have us at 8-5 right now. Is that right? 8-5,
Okay, so not as
Seven
bad as
and
I
five.
thought.
7-5. Yeah.
7-5. Okay. Now we've got the Panthers
Oh
at the
wait,
Panthers, a noon game. For some reason, I don't know why. I
eight and
personally
five.
think that we're gonna
Sorry.
we're gonna drop a game against the Panthers for some reason, unbeknownst to anybody. I just feel like maybe they can
That'd be
figure
awful.
something out. I don't know. I mean, obviously they lost Brian Burns, the best defensive player. But for some reason, I feel like this is like the Arizona game last year. Like everybody's like, "Ah, yeah, Cowboys, that's an easy
Mm.
dub. Put it on your money line," and the Cowboys blow it. So I'm gonna give them a surprise loss right here for the Panthers. And just no reason other than just seems like a Cowboys thing to do.
Mm.
Bennett.
um, I mean, honestly, if I didn't have us losing the week before, I wouldn't be, you know, I wouldn't be far off from what you're saying, that this would be the random trap game that we just don't show up for, and we just
Yeah.
walk into Carolina and say, "Hey, we're the Cowboys. Go ahead and roll over so we can win this game," just like they did in Arizona last year. But I think that we'll still win this game. I think you
Yeah.
could. I
If they
think
lost the week before, I wouldn't have. Yeah, I wouldn't say that
yeah,
they lost.
yeah. I mean, this is like the kind of game where I think the Panthers will be better this year, but I mean, they're not going to be any sort of a threat anytime soon. I just can't.
Yeah,
Not yet.
Rucker.
I was at the Carolina game last year, and much how Bennett's saying, I think Dallas just kind of rolled out there like we're the Cowboys, we're gonna steamroll you, and it was a tougher game than what the final score said. And also, as you said, EJ, I think there is one game this year that Dallas will sleepwalk through and end up losing, which to me that's the Washington game.
Mm,
So I think
okay.
the Washington game will kind of wake them up towards the end of the year, and they should just roll through Carolina.
Okay. The Buccaneers the following week. This is interesting. The Sunday nighter. I I feel like the NFL schedule people got these two games flipped. Like it should have been the Eagles versus Cowboys Sunday night. But I guess this is a Saturday game on the 29th. I don't know. But anyways, the Buccaneers, they're an interesting team. I mean, Mike Evans, Godwin getting up there in age a little bit. Baker Mayfield, do we really believe that last season was legitimate? Who knows? I mean, I always kind of liked Baker a little bit, but realistically, who knows? So for me, I'm gonna say the Cowboys. Is this an away game? I think. Oh no, it's at the
No,
house.
it's
Yeah,
not. Yeah.
yeah, at the crib. I just think that the Cowboys are really going to just pound it on the Bucks. I just don't see that being a close game, and I know that they're a team that's kind of hangs into some games that they probably shouldn't. But yeah, I just feel good about that being a W. So I'm gonna give that W to the Cowboys there at home. I just feel good about that one, especially after losing to the Panthers the week before in my scenario. Bennett.
Yeah, this is another tough one for me. I really like the point that both of y'all have mentioned about the one game that we will inevitably sleepwalk through. Um, the other thing that I'm wondering, especially just in this scenario, as we get later on into the season, is just what each team is going to be playing for. Um, the Buccaneers, I mean, with the NFC South, I mean, I think the Falcons should be expected to win that division, but I mean, there's a very real chance that the Falcons aren't, that great of a team and aren't running away with the division. Like maybe
Yeah.
Tampa Bay just has a little bit more to play for at this stage. So I do think it's going to be a closer game than it probably should be, but I'm going to give us the win because we're at home.
Okay. Rucker.
I got Dallas winning this one. Um, the Bucks don't really scare me at all. Yeah, they'll probably be playing for playoff seeding or division seeding and stuff like that, but so will Dallas. They won't be too far ahead of Philadelphia, more than likely. Um, so Dallas will have to, if they want to keep. In my scenario, Dallas will be up about 2 games on Philly right now. So if they want to stay there, they'll have to get this game, especially after what do I have them losing?
Let me pull this up for you.
Uh, well, they're on a little bit of a streak now. But if they're losing the game to Washington, which is a division game, they'll need to hold serve against teams like Cincinnati, Carolina, and Tampa, which I think they will. Um, so I
Okay.
got Dallas beating Tampa.
All right, the next game at Philadelphia, week 17, 325 game. I'm going to come out and say this. I think the Cowboys are sweeping Philly this year. Don't
Mhm.
know why. I just feel it. I just feel like I just don't trust Kellen Moore. Um, and I think the Cowboys are going to win this game and clinch the division. All for it next week. They just go in and they're like, okay, whatever happens, happens. And they probably lose to Washington the following week. They finished with 11 wins on the season, one shy of hitting that. What would that be? 4 in a row of 12-5. Um, so yeah, I just feel like the Cowboys are going to be in that position with the tiebreaker beating Philly twice. They'll have the tiebreaker no matter what happens the following week. So that's my prediction for these final 2 weeks. What are your guys' opinions?
That sounds good, but if you're a Dallas fan, you should know better. Um, in my scenario, they can lock, the division up with a win versus Philly, and I don't think they get it. I think they go into this game up 2 games against Philly. Philly wins, they get within one, and if Dallas loses the next week and Philly wins, then Philly gets the division, and it's all kind of drama. And Dallas ends up playing Sunday Night Football, Week 18. But I got Philly winning this one, and I have Dallas beating Washington the following week to win the division. So I think that puts me at 12-5.
You know what's
Um,
interesting about because like I think in your scenario, in order for that to happen, Washington they would have to sweep Washington and the Giants for Philly to have the tiebreaker if they finish with the same record. But I feel like Washington has a better chance of beating Philly. Like they've had their number in how many years past. Like they play very well against Philly. Oh, and Philly has secondary troubles. Like, do these new rookie corners, are they that much of a help? And how comfortable does Jaden Daniels feel attacking other rookies? You know what I mean? So that's why I feel like Washington can actually sneak a dub against Philly and give Cowboys that cushion where, oh, if we beat Philly, we can rest our players week 17 or week 18 or whatever. But I do like that tight race between Philly and Dallas because it seems like that's been, you know, the story these
Yeah.
past couple of years. Bennett, go ahead.
Yeah. So for the last 2 weeks, and this probably isn't going to be a super popular take, but this is just where I'm at with the team right now. I have us losing both games.
Okay.
I have us finishing at 10-7. We'll make the playoffs as a wild card team, but I think Philly takes the division. I think we'll be in there as a wild card team. Maybe go in someone else's house in that wild card round. Maybe pull an upset, and then we'll see after that. I don't want to get too far down the line there, but um, for Philly, as I said when we talked about the first game, I think that we split. Week 18 against Washington being at home, I think that there's potentially a chance that even being at 10-6 going into that game, maybe we already have a wild card spot locked up, and we don't really have a chance to move up, or
Okay.
not really playing for anything. So I just think that could be a game where we're either potentially getting healthy, or we're
Yeah.
pulling starters after the first or second quarter. So
Those week 18 ones are tricky every single
Mhm.
time to try to juggle. Like, do I think my team is good enough where they couldn't rest? Like, what? So yeah, I think that which also I'll mention the fact that Lamar set out that final week and still won MVP or whatever is kind of irritating to me because it's like
I mean, that
it's
kind of sat out like 2 games worth of fourth quarters, though.
I
Like,
know that's what I'm saying, but I'm saying he had enough reassurance from somebody where he's like, yeah, MVP doesn't matter. You can sit this game and still win it.
I
You know what I
don't, I
mean?
don't think he would have played whether he had reinsurance or not. Like, the Super Bowl is more important than winning MVP. I don't think he would have risked getting hurt, especially the way he
Fair enough.
plays.
I mean, yeah, he still already had his contract at that point, so
Yeah,
he would have really had no incentive to do that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still salty about that.
but
So
I do agree with you. I think Dak was MVP last year, so
Yeah.
I'll go with you on that one.
I was 11-6. Bennett, you were 10-7.
Mhm.
Rucker, what were you?
12-5.
Finish 12-5. Okay, so you're going with the 12-5. Just
That's the
roll it
Mike
up,
McCarthy record, man.
copy and paste.
Yeah.
Put it on. No, so we got some news, and that went a little bit longer than I was anticipating. So, if I'm keeping either of you too long, no worries, no qualms if you have to pop out. But we've got some news that Mike Zimmer was actually going or is going to be along the sidelines this year. That's new. Um, Obviously Dan Quinn was up in the booth and watching, the entirety of the field. How do you like this decision by Mike Zimmer? What's your there's any questions about it? What's your questions or concerns? Where are you guys at on it? And then I'll give my take after you two. Rucker, go ahead and start.
Well, I thought you were going to say we've got breaking news that, after all the pictures I saw of Mike Zimmer, that he's pregnant. But, but
No, no.
no, I mean, honestly, like, to me, Dan Quinn being in the booth as defensive coordinator was way more newsworthy than your defensive coordinator not being in the booth. Like, to me, that was weird. So
Yeah.
it's not that big of a change for me. I think Zimmer will bring a tougher mentality to the team, but I
Yes.
don't think him being on the sidelines as opposed to being in the booth will change that much. I think going from a guy that's on the sideline to a guy in the booth would be more of a change to me than vice versa. So I don't think it's that big of a deal either way.
Yeah. Bennett.
So I actually love it. The one of the things with Dan Quinn, and especially as we got later into his tenure, but the one thing that always kind of stood out to me, whether it's way that Mike had talked about him and, kind of their relationship, or, just the fact that it seemed like he had one foot out the door in the playoff game, which is neither here nor there. But it seemed like he didn't really like he didn't really have a way of holding players accountable, at least not so much to the public eye. I mean, granted, we have no idea what's said in the
Yeah.
locker room or behind closed doors, but just watching old clips of Mike Zimmer when he was with the Cowboys previously, granted, this is, 25 years ago at this point, but seeing him like, grab guys, by the collar and not being afraid to yell at guys and, basically tell people like, I don't care about what your contract is or about the name on the back of your jersey. Like you play for the star on the side of your helmet. I love that.
Yeah.
I just think that that passion and that ability to hold players accountable is something that we've been missing for years. And I really hope that, especially with some of the guys that we have on this team, that I think could benefit from some, taking more accountability at times.
Mhm.
I think that this is going to be a really great way to do it, because I mean we know we have our vocal leaders, guys like Demarcus Lawrence, who aren't afraid to get in guys' faces and try to hype them up. But at some point, whether or not he has the C on his jersey, you want to hear it from someone that's maybe not a player. And so I think with him being, a coach and just being closer to the action, I think that gives him a really good chance to do that.
Yeah. I think that you made a whole host of really good points. I think that the biggest thing for me with Mike Zimmer being down on the sideline is it allows a outside source to be the vocal person. So not because you know how it goes. I mean, we've all probably played organized sports. If somebody gets on you that's the coach, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, I need to do this better. But when it comes from a player, sometimes it can kind of be like, oh, you're just pointing the finger. I can point the finger back, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
And so when you allow a coach to be down there and hold people accountable, especially with defense, like I mentioned this before we even went live to Bennett, defense is so emotional, and
Mhm.
I feel like calculated and that side of the game is more offense. And so with defense, it's a lot of the time just being being having that mentality to go up and make a hit, or having the accountability to understand, like, I wasn't in my gap. I wasn't here. And just knowing I got to do better. I'm going to put all of my energy, exert all of my energy into being to the spot that I need to be so that my other guys on the back end don't get gashed, or so on and so forth. So I'm very excited about him being down there, especially with some of the players, like you said, having more accountability. I will say with Zimmer, I want to see him have somebody up in the booth that he trusts and can see the field from a bird's eye view, because I think that is valuable. Um, but overall, man, I just think that it's so beneficial from an aspect of your head coach and your defensive coordinator being down there, like, yo, go for this. If you don't get it, I got you. We're already lined up. We got our player personnel ready to go if you don't get it on this fourth down or whatever. Like, just having that communication between your head coach, defensive coordinator, then your defensive coordinator and your players on the field, game time. It's just, I like it a lot. So that's that. Um, we're going to name one. I was going to say two, but honestly, we're just going to go one because we're running a little bit long. One breakout player for the season. If you had to pick somebody, and this cannot be somebody who's made a Pro Bowl already or anything like that, it has to be a new player. It doesn't have to be a rookie, doesn't have to be a sophomore player, but just somebody that you feel like, okay, this guy could make a serious jump. Um, who do you feel that is, Bennett?
So this was a guy that I picked to break out last year, and while he didn't have a full-fledged breakout, we saw him take major steps forward from being a guy that was pretty much unplayable to a guy that was actually a pretty solid contributor down the stretch and had some big catches. And for me, that's gonna be Jalen Tolbert.
That's
Um,
my guy.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, since we drafted him, I've been a super big Jalen Tolbert guy, even when, his rookie year, everyone was super down on him, ready to, you know, say that it was a horrible pick and say that we've reached and all that. I was one of the people in his corner saying we drafted this dude out of South
South
Alabama.
Alabama. Yep.
So, going from a small D1 FCS school to the biggest franchise in, the sports world is probably a pretty big adjustment. So, be a little patient. And he made some big plays last year. We saw him have some big catches against, what comes to mind first is the Philadelphia game.
Yep.
So, he had some big plays there. And, I think this year I would definitely look for him to hopefully be able to earn more snaps, hopefully from earlier on in the season, and really hopefully kind of step into that sort of, Cedric Wilson role,
Hmm.
from a few years
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, I like that. Rucker, do you have anybody else as
I didn't
a
mean to steal
a
your guy.
It's all good.
well,
I was
here's the thing. Here's the thing. For when we go back and we check this and we're either saying, oh, we were so smart or we're complete idiots. We just know, Rucker, you had Jalen Tolbert, but you have to move off of him just because we need another name. Go ahead.
um Jalen Tolbert's a great pick, dang it. I I do think he's gonna have a great year with Brandon Cooks being a little older, and in the last year of his contract, that they're going to be looking at Tolbert to possibly be number 2 next season.
Mhm.
He's going to get a lot more playing time, and like you said, he was really good down the stretch. So with the fact that we don't really have a running game, even though we signed Ezekiel Elliott back, I think Deuce Vaughn might get a little bit more of an opportunity this season. Pro Bowl, maybe not, but I could see 600 yards rushing, maybe 4 or 5 touchdowns at a Deuce Vaughn this year.
Okay. Yeah, I like that one. And he's going to be running behind his or not ex teammate, but former teammate at K State and
Mhm.
now teammate again in Cooper Beebe. So that's a fun one. I'm going to go on the opposite side of the ball with the defense. I think that you look at losing Armstrong, you look at losing Fowler. I think that this is a legitimate make or break season for Sam Williams.
Mm.
And I think Mike Zimmer is the perfect coach to say, listen, you got the opportunity in front of you to do something, to be somebody, whether it's on the football field or simply for your son or for your daughter, to show that, hey, I didn't quit when we went out and drafted a second rounder in Marshawn Nealon. I didn't quit when we brought in Junior Fehoku. I'm here now. I've got my chance. I've got my opportunity. I was playing special teams as a gunner last year. Now I've arrived onto the scene. If Mike Zimmer can really portray a message to him that motivates him, he has all of the tools, all of the skills to be very good. And I'm excited to finally see Sam Williams have the opportunity to be a difference maker from the pass rushing perspective. We've seen him make some flash plays and tackles for loss and the run game and whatnot. We've seen him on special teams, obviously getting some penalties and stuff here and there. But overall, we haven't really seen him be let out the cage, as his Twitter post mentioned. So I want to see him as a not a situational pass rusher, because I think that he has the versatility to be good against a run, but just be one of those headhunters on the outside. I just think that we could legitimately see him have 8 sacks, 10 sacks. If he gets in the right spots into the right game, and especially based on how much they use him, because a fresh Sam Williams in situations is a nightmare against some offensive tackles in the league. I mean, he has explosiveness, he has the bend around the edge. It's just adding more pass rush moves. And really, the biggest thing for me, and I've coached basketball. For middle school before. And the biggest thing I see in players is just having a belief from somebody externally that's not their parents or something like that. And just saying, listen, you have all the talent. You can do this thing. Obviously, who knows how much that holds in the professional game. But somebody that kind of feels down and out right now, he made the post last year and didn't get a whole lot of playing time. Maybe all it takes is Mike Zimmer coming in and saying, look, I see something in you. I want to use you a lot. You're our third, guy behind D-Law, behind Micah. You got the opportunity. Show it in training camp. Show up every single day, and it's going to translate to the field. So Sam Williams is my breakout player. and I'm really excited for the season in his regard. Any comments on that, boys?
I have a question about Sam Wood. Do we feel like he might be playing out of position as
Do you
far as
think that he would?
defensive end? I
Do you think a
think,
linebacker?
man, I just picture. Remember, we had Rolando McClain. I
Mm,
picture
Yeah,
Sam Williams being like a Rolando McClain type, where he's just big, fast, strong, and he was gunner last
yeah.
season. Uses speed, uses instincts to kind of play middle linebacker, and just I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I feel like I just see him at linebacker for some
For
reason.
me, I'm not big at taking like D ends and shifting them back to linebacker. I'm more like the opposite, like linebacker to D end if they
Mhm.
have the versatility. But that's just because I think that linebacker is way more mental side, and that's been one of the critiques about Michael Parsons is like how invested is he in the mental side of football, studying it up? Is he willing to be a linebacker and have to study more and understand coverage a lot better and those type of things? So I feel like he's already kind of on the outs and feeling within how he's been utilized. I mean, he was a second round pick. When you're a second round pick, you have a kind of a thought that you're going to come in and at least be utilized more than he has so far. So, um, yeah, I think that I would keep him at the end, but I have seen that idea being floated around a little bit. Ben, any comments?
Um, so I mean, the one thing that I will say about Sam Williams, I do not want to see him on special teams at all this year. I
Same,
mean,
same.
I don't know why we kept. I mean, I get it. He's fast, but I mean, when you lead the NFL in special teams penalties by a pretty wide margin, and we keep putting you out there, I mean, it's just. I mean, it was a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
So definitely don't want to see him on special teams. I am really curious to see where he fits in, to this team long term. I mean, is like, kind of like you said, like in terms of a make or break year, like this is pretty much, with him, with, Dorrance Armstrong gone too. You have to figure that anytime Micah or D-Law is coming off the field, you have to figure now that he's going to be that first man in that rotation. And I
Hmm.
think that he really needs to, to put some good tape out there and do some big things this year, especially with, who knows what happens with DeMarcus Lawrence beyond this season with, his age and contract situation and all that. So I think this is, like you said, a really big prove it year for him.
Absolutely. Um, Real quick, rookie that you believe is going to have the biggest impact, excluding Cooper Beebe, because I feel like that's the popular choice pick. Go ahead, Bennett.
Okay, so I guess I kind of have a question. Just because this is a guy we didn't see um, at all last year. Well, I guess two guys, but I was wondering, and I kind of wanted to hear y'all's thoughts as well. But these guys are almost like rookies. Eric Scott Jr. and Valami Fahoko. We didn't see them at all last year. What like do you? I mean, do you guys foresee them
According
playing a role?
according to who said it? I think it was Deron Bland, maybe. He went out and said Eric Scott Jr. is has legit made improvements.
Hmm,
Now, I don't know. I mean, obviously he's his teammate. He's in the same, positional room. They're probably buddies. You know what I mean? So,
right.
how much stock do you really put in that? Who knows? But Eric Scott felt like a very big Dan Quinn pick last year. I'm interested to see with Mike Zimmer how he can be utilized and grow as a player because, I mean, Zimmer's a secondary coach. So,
Right.
he could have some good growth. Fehoku, it's strange because whenever I don't know if you guys watched the Dallas Cowboys draft show and stuff like that, but whenever he got drafted, they brought in a scout and they talked about him, an actual scout for the team, and
Mhm.
he was basically saying like, "Hey, this is a guy that has versatility. Can play some three tech, can play some um, uh, uh, D end." And I'm wondering if, especially with the Marshawn Nealon pick, I'm wondering if their idea is, "Hey, if we can't retain Osa Odigizua, maybe we can get Fehoku bigger and he can play more three tech."
Mm,
I'm wondering about that. Who knows? We're gonna see in training camp how much bigger he's gotten and what his build is, because that would tell a lot about that. But it's gonna be an interesting thing to keep an eye upon. Rucker, any comments on that, or ideas?
Um, my rookie would be Mayor. I'm sorry. I've been trying to figure out how to say this guy's last name, and I still can't remember how to do. Maris, the
L-
linebacker out of Notre
Leo
Dame.
Foul.
Yeah, I think this is the first linebacker they've drafted that's actually like a linebacker. Like
Like a big
Damone Clark was
middle
hurt.
linebacker. Okay.
Uh, Parsons was drafted, but he didn't even get to play linebacker. So this is the first linebacker in a while they've drafted with the intent of having them play middle linebacker. So I'm excited to see this. He'll play for Zimmer, which Zimmer's always had really good linebackers. Kendricks will be on one side of him. You'll have Damone Clark that'll be playing. You'll have Overshown that'll come back. So he's going to have all the help in the world. But I'm really excited to see him play.
Well, and Bennett, did you have a rookie that you were excited about?
Oh yeah, that's right. The point of the question. Yeah. My pick for I mean, outside of Maris, I mean, I think everyone is pretty excited to see him. I'm excited to see Marshall Nealand. To me, he almost feels like a D Law 2.0.
Hmm.
And he was a guy that I forget who it was. Might have been like Albert Breer or someone like that, or maybe it was Dame Brugler. Someone from NFL Network had him as a
It was
um,
Brugler.
that they had him as a first rounder.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's just gonna be what I cling to. With Nealon, I mean, I would like to think that I'm someone that's pretty in tune with draft prep, draft analysis, all that sort of thing. When he got picked, I had no idea who he was, but I've learned at the end of the day, sometimes it's just better to trust our scouts, trust our guys. But the prospect of him being a D-Law 2.0 is really intriguing to me. So,
Yeah, I mean, you stole my guy, so I was gonna say Marshall Needland. I had him as a two, second round grade. I didn't have him like a 1-2, but like right outside of my 1-2s.
mm,
I really liked him. I just thought that he brought a physical um, aspect to the game. He's strong. He's also patient. Like he's not gonna just try to get to the quarterback every time. He's really calculated upon. Okay, yes, it's definitely a run. Okay, yes, it's definitely a pass, and then attacking. But also staying engaged with the blocker across from him. So he's not just eyeing the quarterback and looking at that. He's also, trying to beat his guy as well. So I thought that he was good. Obviously, um, a little bit surprising athletic testing for him. I
mm,
didn't see that on tape, but that, brings some hope to me that he could possibly get better in that respect. So, yeah, he's my guy. I think that Sam Williams is kind of your Micah backup, and this guy Marshall Nealon is your D Law backup, as you kind of mentioned. So, really like that pairing. And I think that's basically it for the show. I gotta thank my two guests, Bennett. Pleasure having you on. We'll have to get you on with your whole group sometime
yeah,
soon, man. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully we can have more stuff to talk about. This is kind of the dead season for Cowboys talk, and so um, yeah, it was just a show of talking about hypothetical games that right now seem eons away. But
yeah.
we're always excited to talk with other Cowboys fans. And then Rucker getting on here second week in a row. Pleasure having you again, my brother. If you want to go ahead and shout out your shows one more time, and then we'll get out of here, guys. Bennett, go ahead.
Yeah. So, like I said in the beginning, I'm one third of the Dallas Ballers Club. You can find us on YouTube just at Dallas Ballers Club, Twitter at Dallas BC Pod. You can also follow me, my personal Twitter. I'm on there a lot, tweet a lot about baseball as well. You can follow that at DC Burke, DCBERK. And yeah, EJ, thanks so much for having me on, man. It was a blast. Definitely have to get the rest of the boys on at at some point. I'm sure they'll be watching and wishing that they were here next time. So
Absolutely, Rucker.
Again, you like pro wrestling, boot to the face, boot to the face on Twitter, all your podcasting platforms, and at Old Man Rucker on Twitter if you want to follow me. So EJ, again, appreciate you having me on. Bennett, it was fun. Good talking to you. So
Sir, likewise.
Absolutely. If you're not already following me, go ahead and go to Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Boys, the letter N, the zone on Twitter. And yeah, that's basically all the social media I do. I have an Instagram, I have a TikTok, but I don't really use it, so probably not worth the follow. But I'm always on Twitter posting stuff, and it's a fun time over there. So go ahead and make sure you're following me there. Like, comment, subscribe on this video, set the notification bell. We'll be back next Tuesday with a new video. Peace.